All right, thank you for making time for Daybreak. We're having a conversation on youth and leadership. We've seen the political class starting to coalesce around each other. They're starting to form alliances, they're starting to form coalitions. But what are the young people doing? Are they organizing or agonizing? There's been a conversation that they are the majority when it comes to the voter population, but do they have a voice? Speaking to some legislators already in Parliament, they'll tell us whether they are charting a new path or maintaining the same old ways. Honorable Ruben Kuborek is here, Member of Parliament for Mogotio. Thank you for making time. Honorable Gabriel Kagombe, Member of Parliament Gatundu South. Asante sana for making time. Nafula Wafula Gitonga, Director Ushindi Empowerment. Thank you for making time. And Alex Matere, Executive Director, Youth Bridge Kenya. And Nafula, I'll start with you on this. Are the young people organizing or agonizing? Because we've seen this conversation, and some of them who've been in the front lines like yourselves, now starting to poke holes within their same movement. Others have been called sellouts. Others are saying that they're just benefiting from the government. What is the plan for the young people to steer on this country in a different direction when it comes to leadership? Do they have a plan?
Okay. So I often find it fascinating when this question is asked, because it paints the picture that of young people as being a homogeneous unit. You know, it's like asking, you know, what are the old people planning? Which I find problematic, because young people exist within different identities, right? What happened, or what has happened since last year with the, the Gen Z movement is that we have a political movement that is being led or comprises of young people who have been brought together by shared ideology. And that shared ideology is essentially shared ideology around what they want and what they don't want. And there does not need to be consensus on who should be leading or what should be the next steps, because a social movement is not a political party, right? So I believe what young people, particularly what was brought forth by the Gen Z movement, was a shared ideology around constitutionalism, around rule of law, around the fact that they're tired of impunity and they want access to opportunities, a better life for themselves. And what was birthed then was this political movement. Now, out of that, there might be political parties that come out. Out of that, there might be perhaps leanings towards different political candidates. Out of that, we might have young people vying, and we're already seeing that. And that's why I truly, genuinely believe that young people organized and continue to organize, and that what young people began last year was essentially a slow revolution. By a slow revolution, I believe it is a slow change into what we want to see for the future of this country. So when the question is asked, as to whether, what are young people planning, it feels like people have different expectations. One, either that young people are, I'm going to use this example because I'm a 90s baby and I watched the original Lion King, the monkey that lifts up the cub. So Gen Z should be either lifting up the candidate, this is the person, or we should be like the proverbial, not proverbial actually, I'm a Christian, the prophet, the ones who put oil on the king and said, this is the person, or that we should be coming up with a singular candidate and saying, this is who we are choosing. I don't believe that's what the purpose of a political movement is. And what we have is a powerful political movement that is making waves, that is already changing the culture, the thinking of Kenyans. And I genuinely believe that young people are the swing vote in 2027 and moving forward.
To who?
Well, That's the thing.
Because
so
that's
it's
a question, because,
yeah.
and I get your argument, because you see, the thing is, even if you have, and you said that there's shared common ideology, there has to be that one person that the people say, this is the person who carries our shared ideology. That is what is missing. And we can mention names. We've seen, you're saying that you don't like the question of what are the old people planning. Haven't we seen it though? And we can even mention names. We've seen Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, DAPK Eugene Wamalwa. We've seen Rigathi Gachagua holding together, saying we're now looking for someone else to come and join our bandwagon. So which bandwagon is the young people joining? Because this is the same problem that people had with the Gen Z movement. Leaderless, partyless, tribeless, then what?
I think it's because we like to think within a box, and we like to think within a particular direction. We are used to the vehicle that is political parties. We are used to alignment happening in a particular way. The people you've spoken about, I think, again, people are defined by many identities. Yes, they are old, but they're also the political elite. And the political elite are doing politics the way they're used to doing politics, right? And that's why they're making alliances. And speaking as a young person, it's very interesting to all of a sudden be in a position where your opinion matters, because that's what young people are dealing with right now, right? All of a sudden, it's like, yo, what do you think? Who are you picking? Why? And I think that's a good thing that we're seeing, right? But what I am saying is that it is incorrect to view a political movement of very different people, very different individuals, and expect them to think or organize in the way that a political party would. And I think that we are already seeing what young people are working towards. We are seeing young people register political parties. We are seeing young people declare their intentions to vie. We are seeing young people choose to back different candidates, some who perhaps are contentious, leading different youth leagues, etc. But the point is, we are seeing young people making political moves. Now, I'm not sure what else people want, to be honest. Yeah.
But do you share the same thoughts? Are the young people, do they have some sense of direction on what they really want? And I have some legislators here in the studio. They'll tell us how the system really works.
Yeah, I think, Trevor, from the outset, and also taking cognizance of the members of parliament around, I think this particular parliament in which they are serving, he has the highest representation of young people. It stands at about 13%. Since we got independence, this is the highest representation of young people. The question has always been, do you vote for a young person because he's young, or what he stands for? What are his ideologies? What is the vision that he has? Does he has a plan of tackling some of the challenges that continue to affect young people? Then the second bit definitely has been this phenomenon of the youth bulge, where we have more than 75% of our population being below the age of 35. Our median age as a country now is about 19. We are a bit better. If you go to the Sahel region, the median age is 16. The countries of Burkina Faso, in Benin, in Guinea, in Mali, it's a bit lower. So with the youth bulge, it presents several challenges. One is access to education. So how do young people access to education? Because if you have infrastructure that is not expanded or extended, then you have numbers that have tripled. The issues of healthcare that we were talking about, a hospital that used to serve in a village, let's say of about 1,000 people, now the population has expanded to about 2,000 or 3,000 people. Are the same services and the infrastructure capable of providing quality services to those people? The issue of unemployment, which I think is one of the most critical issues young people continue to face every single day. Kenya's unemployment rate stands at 13%. If you look at from the 13%, actually, the youth unemployment rate in itself, it stands at about 67%. So these are some of the challenges that I think are very dear and close to the hearts of young people, and they are keen on organizing around these issues and embracing a political leader who would have a solution to this. If you talk about the accountability mechanism, I don't think it just rests at the national government, because most of us tend to think that the call for accountability, the call to fight impunity and corruption only rests at the national government. If you go at the county government, you'll actually be told the kitchen there is even hotter. Kiborek will tell you in his constituency, young people are always asking, this is the project that you promised to do. What is the extent or what is the level of implementation of this particular project? And that is the direction that young people should be going, not just concentrating at the national level, but also in the grassroots. Is your MCA representing your vision? Is he addressing the challenges that you continue facing? Is your MP also responsive to some of the needs that you have at that particular level? At the county, is the county also and the county governor together with his CECs, do they have a plan on how you're going to sort out some of the issues that you have at the county level? And lastly, Trevor, in as far as the Gen Z is concerned, I think we had that phenomenon on 25th of June. And one thing that I kept on asking myself is, how are we able to transition these numbers from the streets into the ballot? And I think that is the issue that young people currently are facing, how to be able to transmit the numbers that were on the streets to the ballot. And that requires massive, massive voter education. It requires an IEBC that is also responsive to the needs of the young people. So from where I sit, it starts by first putting more pressure, because the discussion now is the reconstitution of IEBC. Yeah. Are we going to have faces, or are we going to have a youth representative sitting among all the commissioners, just to ensure that even when they develop the policies for voter education, if they develop the policies for voter recruitment, are they going to be positive? Are they going to endear themselves to the young people so that they can turn up to register, yeah, and ultimately now they make their voice being known at the ballot?
Okay. Kiborek, you are in the system already. What should these young people do to see the real change that they yearn for? Because Matere is asking a fundamental question. There was the protest, we've seen it, the Gen Z, then he says, how do you transition those numbers to the ballot? But even if you're transitioning those numbers, who are you transitioning those numbers to? It is still a fundamental question.
You are transitioning the numbers to a working, to the ideals that you really support. It's not should not be about the person. It should be what you want to get out of the governance you want. And I want to say, for the first time, I'm proud of the young people of this nation, because they have come out to be involved on the matters of the land, especially political matters, and want to be part of the governance and leadership. However, it should be done in a manner that it is progressive. It's not just for putting negative energy to the space. It should be giving solutions on how you want it to work. Like, for example, now we have a government which is 2 years old into leadership. As much as you should look at 2027, you should look at what you should get out of these 2 years. And I agree with Alex. It's not about the president alone. It's not about the member of parliament alone. It's not about the governor alone. It's not about the senator, even the MCA, even, some CEOs, even everyone who is in the leadership space, CSS and what have you. We should be pushing for ideals which can transform this country. It should not be about who is in office. Whoever is in office, this and this are what we want it to be done. So it should be like the whole young people and the young people want to be part in leadership should be focusing more on getting the best out of any government which is there, so that we're able to move this country forward, we're able to transform. But if you look at who should be in office, you can remain with idealism, like my sister was saying here, that there should be someone outside the box. We are Kenyans. The same people we are here and the same players will be here in 2027 is us. There's no new person who will come out of this space. It's the same, all of us. If there are young people, they are the same young people who went through the same system of Kenya, education, everything, the space, the environment, would inform who we are as Kenyans. And let me allow you to be somehow digress. When we went to Ethiopia, Trevor, with many leaders that we went on our own and pay our trip to go and support Raila, when you land at Paul International Airport, Addis Ababa, the airport has transformed. For those who have been there before, it is something else. The airport is so nice, it's working. When you go to the streets of Addis, skyscrapers, the town there's a serious facelifting in Addis. And we had to ask ourselves, how did they made it here? How so fast, what happened? And there's two things which came out there. Is one, there is no, and we were joking with Jim Morengo, that there is no too much, like, in Kenya, when you want to do something, people rush to court and they stop it. And there is more the constitution there allows, our constitution is progressive in terms of human people. As a people, we have a very progressive constitution. As a people protecting life, that they are, protecting life, the freedoms and what have you. But in terms of development, and moving forward from the second world we are, or that world we are, to first world. Our constitution is not progressive in the sense that there's too much constitutionalism in between here and where we want to go. In the sense that if you want to build a airport today, you bring Adani, someone rush to court, it stops the same. Tomorrow you want to put a dual carriage from here to Nakuru, which people have been suffering, someone rush to court. You want to bring Shah, someone rush to court, education funding model. So we have to bring a balance where we agree that we stop suspecting one another, we stop looking at one another from a trust deficit. I told you before that this one want to steal, this one want to do this. We look at how do we do to be able to get to where we are. If you look at Asian tigers, Indonesia, Malaysia, even UAE and many other countries which has progressed so fast, is because there was a balance between their constitution and development for them to move to where they want to go. So from where I sit myself is the young people should get the best out of the current leadership, the future leadership, and any other leadership that will come, because you will be always disappointed. The person you want might not win, but the ideals that you want should remain, and you should be able to push for the ideals that you want in a person. Kagombe is a member of parliament. There are some things you should push Kagombe to do now that can change this country. There's things that you should push President William Ruto to do now that can be able to get their governance and and improve the economy, because they're total sum. Because we have to look at if the economy doesn't improve as we want, then unemployment will still shoot up.
Yeah.
If the economy doesn't peak, the services that we want will not be able to achieve. So we have to push the current president positively without the intention of pushing him to fail, pushing him to deliver on A, B, C, D. Because his success, what Kenyans sometimes forget is that the success of President William Ruto is not his personal success. It's not about his legacy. When William Ruto succeeds, it is Kenya will succeed. Okay. If he fails, you maybe wish him, the Kenya fails. And then you get another president, another success. Getting one leader out of office, then you get another one after 2 years, you get him out of office, another one after 2 years, you say he's unpopular, you will end up not achieving anything, and we'll end up, the time is going, we'll end up all of us being old. The people who are calling themselves young now, like me and many others, will end up tomorrow being old. We have not achieved what we wanted because we kept moving the target.
Okay. Gigi, where will this change that the young people are yearning for come from?
Trevor, do we have a problem in Kenya? Yes, we do. Is it political, economic? It's economic. Will we get political solutions to economic problems? No. When I listen to my friends here speaking, I feel that people think that there's this notion that government is a thing that has unlimited resources where we go to get solutions to our economic problems. Trevor, there will be no government that will come that will solve the issue of negative or the deficit that we have running into trillions of shillings in balance of payment. Because if you look at your house, and I keep saying this, and I will say it, I know I will sound like a broken record, but we have a macroeconomic problem in this country, and not a political problem. Macroeconomic problem in this sense. How everybody wants to, our GDP to tax ratio is at 14% currently, meaning that our GDP has an 86% of it that runs around in our private hands. What do we do with that? We have become an economy of flossing. If you have 10 million, the only thing you want to do is to buy a Range Rover or a Mercedes and be seen around. We are consumerism in our nature, and we shall continue. People, Trevor, you remember I worked here. Yeah. One person created employment for 400 of us in his 40s. How much employment have you created for other people because you're also in your 40s? How much employment have I created for other people who are younger than me? What am I doing with my private money? But nobody wants to have that conversation. It is a difficult conversation. We have become the people who are luminaries in the society, the people who the young people are looking up to, are the people who the only thing they do first of all, we don't work as a society. We work a few months a year, and we know that Kiborek knows that. We've been around this town for some time with him. He knows that people don't work in this country. People do not engage in economic activities. People want to, you know, so when I listen to the issues that the Gen Zs or the young people are getting at, they just want to sit at the table to divide this pie that is non-existent. Trevor, we will have to change our conversation. Our problem is not politics. Our problem is economics. And economics shall not be sorted politically.
Okay.
Nobody will come here and tell you to start engaging in. Let me tell you, when's the last time, Trevor? When's the last time? It's not even young people.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming the young people. I'm saying as a country, and there's no dichotomy here that these are the young people who are doing this and these are the old people. It is all of us. It is something that we have adopted as a country. It is why every morning, Trevor, you come here and you have the same rhetoric about politics. When's the last time you had a show that discussed economics, that said this is what the young people, this is the direction the young people should be taking for us to improve this country's economics?
Every other day, it's just
every other day is siasa. And that is who we have become.
That's not true. Every other day we have shows that are dealing with politics and economy. Shows that are dealing with empowerment.
Let me tell you, Trevor.
People only remember the political shows.
Let me tell you, Trevor. Let me tell you, Trevor, because we are Kenyans and we've been around here, and we watch these things every day, and we know what trends and what
trends is the politics. But
exactly.
there's a lot of shows.
Exactly.
We're talking about empowerment.
We will come here and talk about AUC.
In fact, every day Yvonne has power talk.
But the last time we talked about irrigation and what we need to do about this country's irrigation.
We have an agricultural show every day, Kagombe. This is not a fight you're going to win because I'm in the studio, so I know what happens. What I'm telling you is that the people pick things that they want, but we have an agricultural show every other day. Kenya's gold.
Okay.
Nobody talks about it.
Granted. But nobody talks about it. It doesn't trend. And you know, this is not a blame game, by the way, Trevor. I'm not blaming Citizen. I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming the programming. I'm saying that as a country, and you will know that this is true, you get into an Uber and tell the guy, habari yako, immediately he gets into a political direction. That's the truth. Go to a bar.
Yeah.
Every time guys sit in a bar, they want to talk about, oh, Ruto this, oh, Raila this. We will need to change our culture. We will need to change our DNA.
Okay.
We will need to know that the political rhetoric. Let me finish, Kibarek. We will need to change our. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Today, when I leave here, I'm going to Nembu for a burial in Gatondo South of my PA, who has been at KU. If you listen to everybody talking about SHA and SHIF, you would think it is non-functional, it is nonsense, it is non-existent. I had a bill of 1.3 million shillings, and of that, I think 438,000 shillings was offset by a SHIF. I'm talking about yesterday. You know? But if you listen to, if you just listen to the rhetoric around, you know, and I mean this, I don't mean Citizen, I mean everyone, social media. You just go into accounts of everybody. You will find we have this negativity that is geared towards leadership, politicians, you know, the president, like that. Huh? We will need to change our DNA. And no country will ever grow, no economy will ever grow by rhetoric.
Okay.
There will need to be work that will be put in by real people doing real work. And that is where
work has to be done.
Work has to be done. And I want you to think about the difference between the tax to GDP ratio. And I'm telling you, our GDP, only 14% of our GDP goes to taxes, which is government, which is where we are looking at. The rest of the money is in private hands. We have a culture of misusing our private money, and because nobody should ask you because there is no accountability. And I think our constitution gave us over-policing of economics so that we concentrate on what is policed and we do not think about what is our own. Because we must think of what we, by the way, no country, no government anywhere in the world has employed more than 15% of its working population. no government. Kenya, I think we're at probably 10-12% of government employment. The rest is private and corporate world.
Okay, let me hear what Nafula has to say about this, the direction we're taking now. Are we simply just a nation of lamentation?
Well,
first of all, putting in the work, like Agombi said.
I hear you. There is, like I said, I feel like there seems to be a lot of an obsession with transferring blame back to the people. If it's Gen Z, it's back to the parents, you know. And so that in itself is a challenge, I think, especially for the people who have been given the honor and responsibility of representing Kenyans. But I think at the core of this conversation is the fact that we are a democratic nation. Being a democratic nation means that we also recognize that, to be very honest, you cannot separate the economic from the political, because political decisions make the economics a reality.
Yeah, they have a directive.
Exactly. So we cannot say that Kenyans are obsessed with only politics. They're obsessed with politics because the economics or the economy is not working for their lives, or it's not translating to their lives. And we're a democratic country. I think there is also the idea that demanding for accountability is essentially, criticizing and therefore not being on the side of, the government and not being on the side of the government's progress. We all want good policies. Yeah, we don't want the government to fail, because it will translate into better lives for all Kenyans. But we want the government to work, and that is why we are holding the government accountable. And when you're punished for holding a government accountable, then it is a problem. Idealism is the new realism, Honorable Kibrek. I truly believe that, and I think Gen Z showed that and continue to show us that every day. And he raised the fact that there's not going to be any new people coming in. It's the same people. Let's get used to it. But I truly believe that the whole idea of a true democracy and the vision that young people have for this country is anti that statement. It is the fact that there are alternatives, and the beauty of being able to think about what alternatives can look like. Alternative parties, alternative candidates, perhaps even independent candidature that really will translate to our issues as citizens being represented in Parliament, as opposed to what we are seeing today in terms of the whole concept of democracy and decentralization of power, building up into this whole centralization, which is what we are seeing today.
But we have those alternatives from the
young people.
And I know we had this conversation with you even offline, and the conversation was, at this particular point, the reality is people are already talking about 2027. We may try to bury our heads in the sand that it's no time to campaign, we shouldn't be campaigning, but people are talking about it. Who are the young people fronting? Because by the time, if they do this too late in the game, then that person happens to be a stranger. Already we're speaking about coalitions being formed, and that's what Kiborek was saying, that it's just going to be the same people. Because that is what will then endear to the public. And Kiborek, obviously Kagombe is saying that we only talk about politics all the time, but that is the reality. So who are the young people fronting so that that candidate is put on the same pedestal with everybody else?
Which brings me back to what I'd spoken about earlier. By asking that question, we're asking an entire social movement, an entire political movement, to think and act like a political party would. I think when you look at the history of political movements across different countries, right? There is some countries that have indeed, where indeed political parties have come out of social movements or political movements, and had mass following, That's not to say that's going to be the case in Kenya, because remember, the whole idea about, or the whole ideology around the political movement in Kenya, particularly by young people, is the idea of partyless, the idea of
tribeless.
Exactly, And I think there is power, in
power in that, as much as people would prefer, that this is the candidate that is being fronted. For me, what is more important is what do young people want and what don't they want. Young people know who and what they don't want, yeah? And I think let's begin measuring the success of the movement, and let's begin measuring what people want by the political activities that we are already seeing. The fact that young people are now standing up and saying, we want representation in IEBC.
Okay.
That is a political move, And I think that's what we should begin to speak about as we talk about, what do young people want, or who do young people want, as opposed to expecting young people to then, lift up the lion cub and say, this is who we are fronting.
Okay, Alex, is
Yes.
it fair for us to expect that, or is it an unfair burden to put on the younger people to say that, fine, you're agitating for change, who is that who represents the face of the change that you want? Is it a fair question, or are we being myopic by asking that question?
Trevor, from the outset, someone said that there's always a conflict between whether wisdom is wasted on the old or youth is wasted on the young. And for far too long, the young people of this country have been the boogeyman. It's so easy to blame and, lump all sorts of blames on the young people. You are not hardworking, you're not brilliant enough, you don't have skills, you don't even have leadership, you do not have ideals, you don't have ideologies. It becomes very fashionable. If you ask me whether we need to fix the politics or we fix the economy first, I'd respond with what Kwame Nkrumah said when Ghana attained independence, that seek ye the political kingdom, and all things shall be added unto you. All things shall be granted unto you. And I think that is the problem that we continue facing in this country, because we have put a lot of premium in our politics, not just in this country, but across Africa. Once our political system works, and it has been proven since time immemorial, at independence, our political system worked for some bit before we lost track. When we lost track, we have never recovered up to now. When Kibaki came into power, our political system worked. And it's the same thing that we are expecting, that once the political system works, then every other bit shall fall into place. Still on it, if we the young people are ready for leadership, and they see in the political class who actually embodies their aspirations, I think that is where the discussion should be. Not just directing their energies on a singular person, but concentrating more on the ideals. And I'll still go back to what I had initially stated. That is not just about the national government. You have also to go back to the MCA. You have to go back to the MP. Because without the MPs, they're the ones actually who pass the government, the budget. They're the ones who check the excesses of the executive. They're the ones who oversight the executive and other arms of the government. So it's also critical that we also get it right from the MCA at the grassroots level to the national level. So not just putting a lot of premium at the national level, but we actually fail to put that same premium at the grassroots level. And lastly, my bit would be on the kind of challenges that we continue to face every single day, Trevor. From where I sit as a youth practitioner, I think these are challenges that did not emanate singly with this regime. Sometimes it becomes very fashionable to point everything at Ruto and say, you are responsible for this. Successive governments actually failed to plan for the youth bulge. The youth bulge is not just a phenomenon that started now. If we had a projection of our population in 1999, we knew very well that in the next 10 years, the population of Kenya is going to increase by this percentage.
So it's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Did that particular government, the political system at that particular point, put up policies and programs to ensure that we have more classes, more teachers, higher education funding that will be able also to accommodate all the students who would be want to access higher education? Did we have medical facilities together with the practitioners, the equipment, and every other thing? Do we create employment the way Kagombe was talking about? Yeah. Are we in a position where we can be able now to reduce the unemployment rate from the 13% that we have to 5%? So from where I sit, I think it would have been important for us to have that discussion at that particular point, for us to be able to tackle the challenges that we continue having today. Look at the projections that we have from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. By 2050, our population is actually going to be 90 million. We are currently at 55 or more or less 55 or 54 million people. Are we planning, are we futuristic in terms of our planning and program? By the time we are hitting 90 million, believe you me, if we do not put in place measures to create more employment, our unemployment rate at that particular point will actually skyrocket to even 40 to 50%. So it depends on the political leadership at this particular point to be able to come up and chart our way forward on how to grow and bake a bigger cake for us to as Kenyans to enjoy, all of us, and be able to address some of the challenges that we continue facing.
Exactly. Kiborek, what are we missing? You know, there's a difference between those of us who are still outside and those of you already in there. What are we missing when it comes to
There's no in and out.
There is no in and out, but the question is, there is politics both as an art and as politics as science. Politics as an art is what she's talking about, or not everyone is talking about as an art. You can twist it the way you want. But politics as a science, many things they are saying are not tenable.
Okay.
One, for sure, between you and Trevor and me, you already know by now the candidates for 2027. It's either maybe Kalonzo. Is it any different from the current leadership? No, way below the alternative. You cannot put Kalonzo as an alternative of William Ruto. It's way below, because Kalonzo is, you know, you can see is a colorless human being. Is Gachagua better? Gachagua has been championing for everything that people accuse is not right in this government. You don't need even to oppose Gachagua. You just need to bring his video clips and let him speak here. You will speak opposite of what he's saying now. When he was talking about SHA, spoke about housing project, everything. The good thing with Gachagua is that he talks about everything, and every minute it comes out of his mouth. So he can oppose himself. You can put Gachagua A and Gachagua B. What he's saying in A is opposite to what he's saying in B. So it cannot be an alternative to William Ruto, because everything that people are talking about here, including SHA, he has supported. He has come out and supported, and everything is in the onset. So he can challenge himself. He's not an alternative to William Ruto. He can come to Matiang'i. It's another option. Matiang'i, can you talk to the camera and say Matiang'i when you talk about abduction and discuss Matiang'i? You know, Matiang'i is the face of abduction and, you know, extrajudicial killing and Yala River. So there's no another alternative. Those are the practical and politics as science. I'm a political scientist, Trevor, and speaking as a science, you know, you cannot bring a candidate 1 year to election and expect like you can change, you can do a tsunami, you can do a movement or what. It has to be the same players who are now in the picture. And of all the agencies, the one who has come out is Kerara Kabaso. The Kabaso is trying. That is the model of how you do politics. You mobilize, you look for contact, mobilize through social media or practical in ground. So the option is there is no alternative better than what it is now, which is William Ruto, in those who have come out so far. So if there is no better alternative, how do we make this one, which is in power, to work? There's another reality, Trevor. 7 out of 10 shillings of our money goes to paying debts. 7 out of 10. So you are elected as president today, you have promised, I'll do this, you get to office. 7 out of 10 shillings goes to repayment of debt. You remain with 3 shillings. 3 shillings, you have not paid salaries. Pay salaries. It's beyond 3 shillings, maybe 4 shillings to pay salaries. Start development which people are expecting. No money. You again go to another circle of borrowing to be able to meet to it. Alexa said something that Africa busy maybe Africa is very political. And I think I disagree with, I agree with him partly, but I want to build on the same. It is not Africa. It is all the British colonies. From South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Kenya, Ghana. You know, all British colonies in Africa are obsessed with politics. They are very political. At least for Francophones, they are a bit different from us. But for British colonies, all of them, including Uganda here, and you know what is happening in Uganda is not any different politically from what is happening in all British colonies. But when you go to countries which are not colonized by British, they are a bit more different from ours. Because of the, you know, as someone said, Alex said, it is built on something. It's about projecting out for vision. Now we are in African Vision 2063, Agenda 2063. So if we don't build that now and look at 2063, we'll get to 2063 when we have a population of 120 million or so, and not plan that now. You know, you have to plan for the next 20, 30 years. And many people expect a president to be elected and to do what should have been done in 1988. You expect President William Ruto to go in office and solve unemployment issues, which is a problem of 1999, 2000, 2002. As we say, and the good thing with Kenyans is when someone goes, when someone leaves, we start seeing the positive of that person. As much as we say Kibaki solved political problems in this country, I can say Kibaki dwelled more on economical problems, but Kibaki failed politically more than Uhuru and Moi and even William Ruto, because that is the area where we had post-election violence. We had the most contested election in history. But economically, what Kibaki did, they were not popular politically. Okay. But it turned out to be economically, it was the right thing. The same thing William Ruto is doing now. Yeah. He had an option. Let me tell you, Trevor. President William Ruto had an option of going to office and doing what is politically popular. But at the end of the day, the next 10, 15 years, it will only achieve an impact. So he had to go and do what is unpopular. One, sure, let's look and repeal NHIF. It's unpopular now. Eventually, after 2 years, it will be the right thing that he did. You know, one housing model. How do you remove Kibera? Everyone is saying Kibera is an embarrassment. It is bad. We should get away with this Kibera, Mukuru, Kondele, Bondeni. But who was brave enough to try something to be able to remove it? I passed by Southern Pipers and the houses which are coming out in Soweto Village, Soweto C and A and B. They are very inspiring. That at least for once we can be able to get rid of Kibera. Okay. No matter how painful it is, we can remove Kibera. You can plan for the next population, which will be 50% of the next population will be in urban setups. Yeah. All population are coming to urban setup. Who is planning for them? That is what William Ruto is doing. It might not be felt by now, but in the next 20 years, it will be like they were a great man. There's a man who had vision that he knew there will be an urban migration, and we had to plan for those people. Okay. And when you plan for those people, someone who is sitting now might not see the importance. I have my house. What about your son? You are getting now. He's moving to Nairobi. Okay. Where will you go and live?
All right, Gigi, what are we missing from an insider's perspective?
You know, Trevor, there's something called social engineering.
Yeah.
The narrative that we have here is not ours, and there's something that Kiborek has talked about. We still are suffering from colonization. The narrative that we have here, let me tell you, if you were to have a topic, and I'll repeat it, politics in Kenya would be number 1, religion would be number 2, everything that really doesn't impact on our finances, on our economics, will take precedence about what we discuss as a country, not as a media station, not as a country. So that's number 1. So we've been socially engineered to continue dwelling on things that do not impact on us socially. You know, the difference between Kenya and Uganda is that Kenya is very big on cash crops. We produce things that we cannot feed on. Uganda, on the other hand, is big on food crops. Because we're not able to, and that's why we find our problems begin in the household. Unga. We have been brought to be so basic to just discuss about food, stomach. Unga. We have not fed. Yet we have land, arable land, that can feed us, but we don't want to do that. We will cultivate what is to be sold to other countries, and what will be, and the prices of it. Our biggest export is tea. Our price of tea is dictated by the buyers who are not African, who are not Kenyan. It's other people. We continue to be, you know, colonized. We have this impression that we are free or we are sovereign. We are not. We're still colonized. That's number 1. The conversations we have about politics are also not ours. This conversation, you need to go back to 1963 and see what happened. When we say that we got independence, we just got Kenyatta installed in the same government that Muzungu had formed. So this government was to perpetuate impoverishing Kenyans at the expense or to enrich other people who needed resources from us. If you look at it, you know, we perpetuated the same thing, the same model, only that we changed the holders of the office. And we have never sat and said, wait a minute. We thought we did that in 2010. We didn't. We perpetuated the same thing because who were the formers of our Constitution? Who were the framers of our Constitution? The committee of experts that you found sitting was an extension of Muzungu. We have never actually sat and had a conversation as Kenyans and decided this is our path that we want to chart. This is the chart. This is the path that we should follow. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you know they say vita vya panzi furaha ya kunguru. It is what we do. We are now stuck here. Oh, the problem is Raila Odinga. Oh, the problem is Kalonzo. Oh, the problem is Ruto. The problem recently was Uhuru Kenyatta. We have been on this studio, we've been in this studio discussing Uhuru Kenyatta and his problems and how he has ruined this country. In fact, someone sent me, some gentleman from the army sent me a screenshot of the Standard in 2004 saying the way NAC continues to impoverish Kenyans. It has been the same story. Yeah. You know, Kibaki was not a good person in 2004. In fact, we did not even elect Kibaki in 2007. You know exactly what happened. We are all Kenyans, we know. Because we were pissed with him. When he tried to make things work, when he said to lipe ushuru to jitegeme, we said no. And that is why we did not even elect him. We are now singing his praises, saying, oh, Kibaki, Kibaki. He looks like the best president. Yet he's the person who, as Kibarek says, caused post-election violence. Why? Where was there post-election violence? Because he concentrated so much on creating the economy, and we did not want that. What did we want? We wanted politics. Okay. And he did not deal with the politics. All right. So, unajua hii kitu tukubaliane hapa, Trevor. Tukubaliane tu. Sema hii mahali tupige kelele, ikuwe malumbano, ni nani maarufu kwa maneno ya kelele, nini, na tuachane na uchumi, tukaa hivyo. Hii nchi, as the people say, hii nchi tuuze, kila mtu apatiwe pesa yake, we continue with life.
Let's bring up some of the feedback that's coming through, then I take closing remarks from all my panelists here. We run out of time. Let's bring up a lot of feedback coming through from young people and different people as well. Bobo Tieno says the government should come to reality that SHA isn't working and revert back to NHIF following private hospitals' threats to exit before it's too late.
That's the language of cartel.
Sawe says if NHIF is indeed plagued by corruption, wouldn't it be more prudent to reform and strengthen the existing system rather than introduce an entirely new one? Is SHA truly a corruption-free alternative? Yes. Or are we merely replacing one flawed system with another? Babu Michael says on SHA, I always ask myself, since health is a critical aspect of life, what prevented the government from conducting proper piloting and testing before officially launching it to avoid the current failures? Why was it rushed? People are suffering. Godi Baraza said the greatest fallacy and misconception that our youth have is that their problems can only be solved by politicians. It's time for our young people to embrace social audit, do petitions that will change their lives for better.
That guy should be president.
Okay. Discipline says the political leadership is responsible for our economic problems. That is why we need a drastic change in our politics. We need visionary leaders, not the current ones in parliament. Franco Rinde says youth hold the key to a brighter future. To lead effectively, they must engage in governance and carry out civic education to enlighten as many youths as possible to take up their civic duty and demand for accountability, ethical leadership, and transparency. Sam Nixon says the success of the youth in this country will largely depend on their leadership and mentorship. They must be cautious about aligning themselves with mentors who are corrupt and immoral. Instead, they should seek ethical and visionary leaders who genuinely support their aspirations for a better future. Gabi says, youth, let's rise and compete, since it's only in being creative and smart that would make us lead the youth movement to clinch top power. Nothing for the youth without the youth. Nafula, closing remarks, 1 minute.
Yeah, I'm still particularly irked by the idea. I think it's an illusion of grandeur, really. The idea that there can be no other alternatives apart from apart from what already exists. And it is this cycle that we have as Kenyans of voting for the lesser evil. We've always had alternatives in this country, even, in different political seasons. We've always had alternatives. But my point is, I think young people have allowed us to envision voting patterns that are not defined by ethnicity, for example, and allowed us to envision a Kenya that is completely different.
I think young people are already acting outside or thinking outside of, are not only thinking of political solutions, you know, as is being claimed on the panel. I think young people are becoming a formidable force with regard to accountability in this country. And all the different things that, you know, that we're talking about in terms of solutions don't only lie in, you know, political leadership. I think young people are redefining, or rather really defining what sovereignty of the people actually means by virtue of the fact that they are taking a front seat in determining what they want the future of this country to look like.
Okay. Alex, 1 minute.
For me, in my minute, I think Harold Laswell says politics is about who gets what, when and how. And the big question has always been, what are these demands that the youth have? Do we have a candidate who has the ability and capability to be able to meet the aspirations of the young people and to be able to implement programs that is going to ensure that they are emancipated from the challenges that they continue facing? And far and large, I think going forward, the youth should continue pushing for accountability, not just at the national level, but at the county level, at the constituency level, at the ward level, to ensure that they have the leadership that they deserve. And once that is fixed, I'm so sure that we would have a beautiful Kenya going forward.
Okay, Kiborek, 1 minute.
Thank you, Trevor. I think the biggest problem in Kenya is the social architecture. Our education, our culture, politics, work. You know, encourage people to wait for government to give you and blame it if it doesn't give you. I am for the ideal that the young people should push for accountability. And as you push for accountability, let's remain about accountability and push about accountability, because when we discuss about the youth and leadership, it's true. All these people we are discussing went to leadership when they were young. Kalonzo was in leadership in his 20s. He was a member of parliament. Mudavadi was 29. Kibaki was 33. William Ruto was 31. Raila was in his 30s. So all of them, and just like this youth of today, and even me and Kagomba and many young people, we are youth, unless there is another description of a youth more than what I am. I am a young person. I am 33 years old and I am a youth of this country. We believe also in a better Kenya and brighter Kenya. And we all believe in the same. The only thing we differ from is formula on how to get this future. And sometimes there may be how it should be done and how fast and who should do it.
Okay.
But what we are saying is, by and large, is that this government we have now is a transformative government. It has the plan, it has the intention, it has it sits in a reality that it came into leadership when there was over-borrowing. And it has to sit and carry all the blame of former governments, because government operates in perpetuity, as they plan for those governments which will come after it. So I want to tell Kenyans, Trevor, that we remain on the focus on accountability. We should fight corruption, just like the way cartels in NHIF are fighting back and telling people we go back to NHIF because they want to continue with fake claims. They want to continue with corruption and mismanagement which happen in NHIF. We want to tell them there's no room, you cartel, of going back to NHIF so that you continue stealing from Kenyans. Okay. SHA, of many accusations they are accusing SHA, none of them is corruption, none of them is mismanagement, none of them deals on those integrity of SHA. It talks about the systems, on how it should be improved. It talks about claims and many other things, but none of them talks about corruption, which is the reason why we move from NHIF. Okay. So those cartel coming and saying they want to strike and to do this because they want to continue stealing from Kenyans, they want to push Kenyan population to fake information and false information so that Kenyans can agitate for NHIF so that they continue stealing and doing fake claims and corruption. We want to tell them we are building a country where it's a corrupt-free and which country which belongs to everyone.
All right, Kagome, 1 minute.
Trevor, this country, we have more that unites us than what divides us. We must stop this dichotomy of Christians, Muslims, young, old, Kikuyu, Luo. This dichotomy is what is killing us. We are one country. The younger people have ideas. The older people have resources. We must come together. We must stop the dichotomy. If we're to proceed, if we're to progress as a country, we must come together, bring ideas, and not think that this will replace this. It's a continuum. It's one continuum that you cannot divide and say, now, this is where we stop. Okay. So I also want to remind Kenyans that we have one country. We only have one Kenya. And we must build it. And nobody will come from another place and build this country for us.
Okay.
It will be done by us.
All right.
It has to be us. Old,
Yeah.
young, unborn, those ones. It is us to build this country.
All in the same.
And we must know
Okay.
that in all we do, and I ask and I appeal to all people who have the advantage of having followership, church leaders, media personalities, political leaders, everybody, that everyone must be responsible of what comes out of their mouth, and people must be responsible. And we shall not continue enjoying the prerogative of the harlot. Power without responsibility. That is what is going to burn this country.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's leave it there. Honorable Ruben Kiborek, Member of Parliament Mogochi, Honorable Gabriel Kagombe, Member of Parliament Gatundu South, Nafula Wafula Gitonga, Director of Shindi Empowerment, and Alex Matere, Executive Director, Youth Bridge Kenya. Thank you all for making time. That's where we leave it for now. And thank you all for the feedback that you sent through to us. Coming up next is Ben Sue and Roy T-Boy on the decks. So stay with Citizen TV. Bye for now.